being recorded.
No, I was just wondering if we have a quorum. Is Seth online as well?
We do have a quorum, and yes, Seth is online.
Okay.
So that's 4.
Yes, that's 4, until Chris Howden is supposed to be coming. There he is.
Oh, here it is. All right, I think we can start. Well, I would like to thanks everyone to join us this, let's see, January 26th Planning Commission meeting. So, gonna seek everybody's help today. I'm covering for Mr. Jerry Hubbard, which is excused for this meeting. And then we also have number 1 on the agenda, action there. We would like to thanks, Chris, but we'll jump there in a second. So to begin with, I ask Claude to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Aubrey will do the opening prayer. Sorry, if you can start with the opening prayer. Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are thankful to be joined together as citizens of the Highland City and those who would serve our city as in offices to take care of the needs of our community. We invite thy Spirit to be with us. We pray for peace and understanding and patience, and that the best outcomes for our community might be agreed upon. We give thanks and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I would like to start the meeting with the action number 1, which is we have our Chris, our former chair, and we also have the mayor. We would like to recognize Chris for his service in the Planning Commission.
Chris and Sister Chris, first name. Chris has served us for 10 years on the Planning Commission, which is more than enough. Any contentious Planning Commission I've been at since I've been in Highland, Chris was there. And there have been quite a few. And he has done such a good job of chairing the meetings. He's been fair to everybody. He's very efficient. Certainly someone I can learn from as mayor, and he's my role model for how to run a meeting. I'm not there yet. I'm not at Chris level, but maybe before I finish, I'll reach that level. And he's gone a lot on this, and so we want to thank his wife for supporting him in this. We appreciate it so much. And then we have this nice plaque. Oh, wow. Not even a plaque. 11 years, and I think he's been chair 8, is my guess. It's the best guess I could come up with. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you
now,
very much.
Every year, since I've been mayor, I ask staff to make a pin representing our theme for our Highland Fling. And this year's Fling theme was Our Story Unfolds. And I can't think of a more appropriate pin. You're a permanent part of our story. You've earned it with the stripes that you've been given, and you get one of these too. Thank you for being part of Highland's story. You're in the book forever, and if I could hug both of you, I would. I so appreciate all you've done. It is a lot of work, and it's not recognized, and you take a lot of flack, and you've done, look, you don't hardly have any gray hair. It's just such a shame that angst has gone to waste. You could be
Just don't let it grow out.
Yeah. So anyway, and I don't know if you want to say, you've worked with Chris for a long time, and I know you've appreciated.
No, just echo what the mayor said. Chris was here about the time I got here, so he taught me a lot and helped me along when I first started, and appreciate everything you've done for me. So thanks a lot.
I hope you'll continue to be part of the Highland story in whatever capacity that is appropriate.
It's been our pleasure to serve the residents and get to know so many of them and the staff, and it's really been pleasurable and our honor to be able to serve the city that we love so much.
Okay. Well, and we love you, so
Thank you.
thank you very much. And I would, thank you. You should get a standing ovation. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I had a chance to work with Chris for 1 year since I joined the Planning Commission, and I think the way he ran meeting was just impressive, and I think a lot of us have to learn from Chris, so thank you. Okay, so I'd like to move to items number 2 in the agenda, which we have a photo of office of our Commissioner Aubrey.
Thank you, Commissioners, for letting me be here tonight. My name is Stephanie Cottle. I'm the Highlands City Recorder, and I'm just here to issue the oath of office to Audrey Moore and Tyler Standiford. So if they would both stand and raise their right hand and then repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office in the Highland City Planning Commission with fidelity. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Sorry, Tyler, I didn't realize you're also a new member, so welcome to the Planning Commission as well. All right, so I want to open the floor now for public appearance, if you have any unscheduled public appearance.
Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to raise their hand and participate? Okay, there is no one on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to close the public appearance, the unscheduled one. And let's move to action number 4. This is a permitted use CR zone, and it's legislative action. And I think staff, do you want to present it first?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Acting Chair and Board of Commissioners. The applicant is proposing a text amendment for the permitted uses in the CR zone, like Nino mentioned. A little bit of background, the amendment applies to the entirety of the CR zone, and the applicant owns 8 of the lots in the Highland Marketplace subdivision. The Highland Marketplace subdivision is the entirety of the CR zone, just to make that clear. The list of permitted uses in the development code for the CR zone is very specific. If you look at it, it was an attachment in the staff report. They are just very specific when it comes to the types of retail and what is allowed, and the goal is to match the lists of permitted uses in other commercial zones. I went through them in the development code, and they do tend to be a little more general, allowing for a little more flexibility when it comes to the just having similar retail uses versus this, and this. So just a proposal to match the other pieces of the code. These are the affected lots. Again, it's the Highland Marketplace subdivision, which is the CR zone. Just a little more detail on what that amendment entails. It would be adding nail salons, and then shipping, mailing, pickup, and return centers not exceeding 2,500 square feet in area, which I will talk about in just a moment. General retail not otherwise prohibited, and then general office use. And then also the point that it is allowing all of these permitted uses in both levels of the buildings in the CR zone. In the current permitted uses, it separates the two, and what is allowed in the second level is, it just has a specific list of different types of office, and then in the main level, there are medical offices that are permitted, and so it's just generalizing it to general office, like including but not limited to all of the listed permitted uses, and that's applying that to both levels. This, oh, I apologize, let's go back. This is kind of, we spoke with the applicant just on the idea of pickup and return centers. This is just an example to kind of get an idea of what that is. The applicant noticed that there is a trend of having pickup and return centers due to the increase of online shopping, and so it's just looking forward into future development and future retail uses. And we decided to use the wording to expand it and generalize it a little bit, just like I previously discussed, to the shipping, mailing, pickup, and return centers, and then giving it a square footage limit. Just to clarify, the purpose of zoning is designed to separate uses based on potential impact. It is not the purpose to say that these are the specific like types of retail that are allowed in this. And by looking at the proposed uses, staff has concluded or recognized that they are consistent with the existing uses in the commercial retail zone and the purposes of the zone. The appropriate public hearing notice and planning commission notices were completed, and we received no correspondence on the matter. And we as staff recommend that the planning commission conduct a public hearing, accept the findings, and recommend approval of the proposed amendment. The applicant is also present if you have any questions for him specifically, but I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So this is a public hearing, so I would like to open a public hearing for this item number 4. Is anybody online?
We have no one on Zoom or on YouTube that has wanted to participate.
Okay, so I would like to close the public hearing and open the floor for any questions from the commission.
We had discussed what the square footage was in the UPS location over by Myers. Does anyone have any idea as far as the square footage and parking required for that? I think they only have 4 or 5 stalls, maybe 6.
Typical locations are only about 1,400 to 1,500 square feet.
Excuse me, would you mind just to come over and
You need to
announce?
state your name.
Yeah,
And
state your name on the microphone.
Lance
Thank you.
Pendleton with Mountain West Commercial, real estate broker here, and we do a lot of work with UPS, but just knowing what their traditional deals are, they're anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 square feet.
Thank you.
And our typical parking requirements for the zone is 4 parking spots per 1,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
So in that regards, is there any particular reason to why, just because, just as mentioned, UPS has similar formatting and their shops are about 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. Is there a reason to why we are proposing to go up to 20,000? I guess the question that I have is, I know in the past the city council was trying to find different way to provide revenue for the city, and I don't know how a drop-off location will add revenue, maybe in taxes perhaps, but besides that, I don't know if there's any additional sales revenue.
You know, we were working with a developer to try to come up with a way to define this particular use. The original concept was a pickup center. And trying to define it in such a way that it didn't become like a warehouse, or we've all been you know, you go to R.C. Willey's and you order it and you go to the pickup center on Redwood Road. We didn't want that kind of use there. So that was a compromise. We knew it could be bigger than just a UPS shipment store kind of thing. And so that was the best thing that we could come up with to try to get a compromise and figure out what it could be. That's basically in our working with developer to come up with that.
Do any other the neighbor cities have similar type of ordinance that match ours, or have already some of these drop-off location?
One more time.
I was wondering if there is any other neighbor city that have already this type of drop-off location, that are similar ordinance as well.
No, most of the ones that we're familiar with are the kiosks. First we said, hey, this is a kiosk. Well, it's a little bit more than that you see like outside a 7-Eleven or something like that, where you go in, you put your key in, kind of like a neighborhood community mailbox. But this is different, and it's a little bit larger. That's what we originally thought it was, but we weren't able to find anything else different.
Joe Ham, representing MNG, the developer. Let me just add a little bit of what we're after here. In publications that you read in our development industry right now, there is quite a move towards centralizing these pickup and return businesses. Right now, you'll see them in malls, where you'll have a central pickup and return for all the retailers in the mall. Amazon, of course, has their locker system around the country. But we're seeing more and more now to where the retailer does not want to house their pickup and return in their facility, but they'd like to get that business taken care of elsewhere. Kohl's is one example that now represents Amazon and taking back merchandise and things like that. So the publications, the industry prognosticators believe that this is a trend that we'll see happen in community centers. And right now, UPS mainly ships out, takes your package, and it's gone by 4 o'clock. But these pickup and return centers will need a little bit more capacity for storage. And that's why we're going from 1,200 to 2,500.
So there is a back to the store in which some of these boxes will be stored until there is a...
Or on hold for the customer to come in to pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Minna, would you mind if I ask you a question, sir? So what type of vehicles will be doing the drop-off and delivery? I'm not talking about the individual retail customers that will be doing that, but you're going to be processing this in batches, I presume. So the logistics behind it, are we going to have big semi-trucks coming into the parking lot, or just small FedEx-sized?
Yes, it's right now the king of shipping is, of course, UPS and Amazon's own delivery system. We don't see that turning in. We don't see that turning into a tractor-trailer delivery kind of a system. We see that as small vans, 6-wheelers,
Okay.
like a Frito and a bread truck and a UPS truck.
Okay, so we're not going to have loading bays or things like that in
That's
the
correct.
structure of the building?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Much like what Kohl's, if you're familiar with their return and pickup policy for Amazon, much like that. Just a small section of their store dedicated to a counter where they can get service on those kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that was a good question, and probably a segue into action 5, because I think that comes in place as well. Okay, any other comments?
No. I have one more, and this is more for staff, for Nathan and Kelly. In the process of doing this, is there anything else we can do just in the descriptions just to kind of clean up the language? More in the spirit of what you've done with the general retail not otherwise specified? What I mean by that is we have a lot of very specific uses, and it just seems like, you know, how many angels do we have on the head of a pin rather than just making them general categories?
We can. So if you'll notice in the amendment, it says general retail not otherwise prohibited. We have a prohibited section. You can eliminate all the other stuff. And you have general office, and we can expand that to say general office including medical and professional, and you probably limit the rest of the stuff and make it pretty easy. But yeah, we can certainly clean that kind of stuff up fairly easily.
And it's not to make your life difficult, but just in that same spirit of not having to bother with the process, if we could possibly do not otherwise prohibited, it might preclude us having to do or spend time on things that we otherwise...
Oh yeah, I mean, the reason you do that, well, there's two ways to do that. Sometimes it clarifies that, so it doesn't bother, you know, from an administrative standpoint, it doesn't specifically cause me heartburn a whole lot, because we do have, it's a little bit redundant, because we have our prohibited use section. But it makes it more clear that, hey, it's just not everything. So it doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I can see your point also. So I assume what you're saying and say general retail and not otherwise prohibited.
No, I beg your pardon. What I mean is other categories. So basically duplicate what you're doing with the general retail not otherwise prohibited, have a similar type of thing applying to the other categories. So then you don't have to go through this long daisy chain of specifying it's CPAs are permitted, but we don't want, you know, some other kind of business.
Yes, if I was rewriting a zoning ordinance, that's how I would do it. Service uses such as da-da-da-da-da, but not including such as, you know, or retail such as, and then make sure your prohibited use is specific enough that you're excluding those that you don't want.
Okay, any other comments? Seth, Chris, online, you guys have any comments or questions? Okay, well then I would like to move for a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and recommend approval of the proposed amendment based on those staff recommendations.
Second. Were you done?
Yes.
Okay, second.
If it's okay, I'm just gonna call for a roll. Does that work also, Kelly? Okay. So, Seth?
Yeah.
Claude?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Aubrey?
Audrey?
Audrey,
Yes.
sorry. And Tyler?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes as well. So the motion is passed. Okay, so we'd like to move to action number 5. So this is actually in reference same developer. So number 5, so Island Marketplace is going to be administrative, and it's for the architecture review. Staff would like to propose.
Okay, thank you, acting, I apologize, acting chair and board of commissioners. Like Mino said, this is a request for site plan approval and architectural review of the retail building specifically. This is a vicinity map. This is lots 1 and 2 in the Highland Marketplace subdivision. Again, as mentioned before in the previous presentation, the applicant does own 8 of the 11 lots in the Highland Marketplace subdivision, and there was a development agreement for this subdivision that was entered into by the city on April 24th, 2007. Included in this development agreement was a site plan that included just one building on these 2 lots, and that building had 118,250 square feet of grocery and retail. The request is to have an overall site plan of these 2 lots and making it 5 buildings. The motions or things that we would like the Planning Commission to take under consideration to recommend to the City Council are this overall site plan, which would establish the circulation, traffic flow, that type of thing, access, parking, and just general building placement, as well as the landscaping plan. And then we would also request that you make a recommendation to council about the architectural plan for the retail building specifically. Every other building will have to go through a separate architectural review process. This is the overall site plan. As you can see, there are those 5 buildings. This is over 9.64 acres and a total of 124,500 square feet of commercial space, which is a significant increase from what was originally approved in 2007. They included 524 parking stalls, whereas there are only 498 that are required for the CR zone. And access is going to be through, there are those, I apologize, it's so difficult to see on the PowerPoint, but there are 2 on the south end along Timpanogos Highway, 2 accesses, and then the access along Alpine Highway. We did address the fact that the access is minimal, but because all of these buildings are already constructed, there's not much we can do, and there is an existing wall that is on the east side of this site, prohibiting access to that residential neighborhood to the west. I believe I said to the east. And that's just to make sure you don't have any retail traffic going through that neighborhood. This is the landscape plan. It follows the requirements of the development code. They added a few hardscape features, including picnic tables, benches, and just general walking space. Moving on to the architectural plan, which is that an independent approval. This is where Planning Commission has, this is just a recommendation to council. Sorry, that's a different presentation. The height of the building is 32 feet and 8 inches, and the maximum height that is allowed in the CR zone is 45 feet. The materials and colors of the architecture are consistent with Section 3437, which are the architectural standards for the CR zone. We also have ensured that they included 4-sided architecture. So these elevations are different from the ones that you received over the weekend. And we just made sure that this side that is along the parking lot also has different siding, colors, materials, just to make it look more presentable and beautiful. The appropriate notices were sent out for the Planning Commission, and we received no written correspondence. I apologize, this is a lot of words. This is also included in the staff report. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this site plan and architecture of the retail building, subject to the following stipulations. Most of them are pretty standard. We did include the landscaping requirements, which they have met, and just our standard hours of operation that are found in the municipal code, as well as a stipulation about those other proposed buildings in this overall site plan going through their separate architectural reviews, and the 4-sided architecture. And then we added stipulation 8 just to ensure that that would not be an access going to the residential area on the west. I'm again happy to answer any questions, and as you know, the applicant is present if you have any questions for him specifically.
I have some questions for that. And my only real serious concern is the entrance on the Alpine Highway side. With Alpine being so restricted in access to Alpine, there's only 3 ways in. That is a major way to get in. And with potential of 500 parking spaces being filled, which is very highly optimistic, right? I get that. You cannot turn left for a very long time, certain times of the day, and school getting out being one of them. I'm concerned with the big median in there and nothing to guide traffic or allow people to take turns so close to the main intersection in Highland City right there by the CVS. So I'm just wondering, is there any suggestions or proposals on what we can do to alleviate traffic there?
All I do know is that these are the accesses that have been allowed by UDOT, and because these are state highways, to have more accesses, we have to go through them and request it from them.
I'm just wondering, even with more access, it has a cement barrier there. It's a one-way turn for a lot, like
On
it
that
blocks
south
on that
access
side.
from- yeah.
Right. So I'm just concerned of a bottleneck right there. It's too close to a main intersection that people would get backed up with. I'm just wondering what kind of traffic solutions we can come up with for that.
So when the marketplace was developed, as you know, 74 and 92 are UDOT roads. So when they are developed, access plans are approved with UDOT. And if and when any improvements to those intersections happen, will all be under the governance of UDOT. There's nothing that us as Highland can do to those, for those. So we can express a concern to UDOT that says, hey, you know, this is coming in, we need you to look at these 2 intersections, and they'll say, okay, and they'll look at them.
2 of those entrances are so close to the light
Uh-huh.
that people are picking up speed and going, and you'll never be able to get out. With increased traffic. I mean, I guess that's pretty dramatic, but it will be very difficult and back up. So I would love to include that we talk to UDOT about a traffic solution or some way to allow turns in that area.
We can do that.
And then along those lines, do you think it's also possible to set a preferable route for the truck going to the grocery store for loading and unloading? Because you can have the same problem through Alpine Highway or SR 92, but probably Alpine Highway has already a median, and it might be an easy route. I don't know if that will help alleviate some of the concern.
So we can. So usually with the individual operators and the operator of the center, we try to, or we can work with them to figure out what the best way for access for their vehicles go. It's going to depend on which way their freight is coming from. Most likely it's probably going to come from the west to the east and then come in that way. I don't know. But we can, just like with a Macy's or any other store like that. But we're limited on approving additional access on 74 or 92. It kind of is what it is. And at this point, it's really trying to work with the site plan and working with the owners to try to get what the best layout is. I don't know, Joe, do you want to add anything to that?
So then Nathan, the city can now establish a trucks entrance only, and therefore anything, the other two entrances they're available, which is the one closer to the light and the one.
We can,
West.
it becomes a matter of enforcement, I mean, and you know, how do you serve the other users? Does it make sense to do that and at that point, because you have the other users in there also. I've seen it, most of the time in centers, they figure out their best way to go because that's the least amount of traffic, at least the big ones, the big trucks. But you know, even if you have a little restaurant, even the ones that are there, they have their schedules and they come at certain times and,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like getting gas at Costco, you know, they shut down a whole lane and everybody gets to wait, so, while they unload.
It's also with the drop-off location, so you're gonna have additional traffic coming, goes even from user, probably during the Christmas season or any other holidays, you're gonna see an uptick in traffic also.
Yep, yep, it just happens in commercial centers.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is this by any chance on the bottom left, is that where the car wash is
Yep.
located? Okay.
And my question is on the Alpine Highway, the very top, are there two entrances into that area?
That's one interest, it's just a left out and then a right in.
What about
Right
right
out.
above it? Is that a solid line that prevents entrance? Is that a residence?
That's entrance into the church property.
That is, okay, thank you.
So actually, where you had the cursor just a second ago, that road is closed. Is that what you were mentioning in regards that we cannot have traffic going through residential into commercial?
No, that's the
Right,
west
what do you have
side.
your
Well, that's on this side where
Okay.
there's black boxes.
Okay.
There's a
What-
wall.
So Mina, there are 5 homes that are to the east of the church, and there's this little J, well, backwards, it's almost an L, and that's what you're seeing there.
Okay.
But it doesn't access where the Blue Lemon building
Okay,
is or
that's what
anything like that.
couldn't tell if that went through. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
I guess in answer to Nathan's question, we've owned this property now for about 9 months, and we inherited these access points. And believe me, we've exercised every imagination we could about how to provide something, because even the access points are not very wide. And yet the buildings were already built and really defined the width of those access points. Having developed for many years these kind of grocery store anchored shopping centers, and we're negotiating with 3 grocery stores right now for this, so we're hopeful that this will be our tenant here. But these box trucks that we'll be delivering to there, not just the bread trucks and the potato chips and the soda, but also the semi trucks, they will not want to drive through that parking lot. They will not want to drive out to Alpine Highway. So they will come in off of, and as I see it, they will have to come and get onto Alpine Highway south of the property somehow. Come up and make a left turn westbound onto Timpanogos, and then a right turn on that furthest west drive aisle or driveway. Come up, go to the back of the shopping center, back into the dock. When they exit, they will go back around the grocery store and back out that same exit. That way they won't get stuck in the parking lot with cars backing up. I don't see another way.
They would be exiting back onto Timpanogos Highway.
Back onto Timpanogos Highway.
Is there some concern then if that's the route the trucks would go? I mean, we have a stipulation that there can't be an access point with the 5500, but is there a concern that, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine a scenario that you just picked where they kind of go around and then they're headed west on Timpanogos Highway to turn in there, and those options are pretty limited besides them potentially cutting through some of those neighborhoods there.
Well, that actually has a wall there now, so they'll learn very quickly.
Well, I'm saying if they go to like 5,500 to 11,200 and come around in front of the church and all the way around, because what you just described was them coming in and accessing that and then trying to access it as they're headed west. And I'm thinking, that's the only viable option I see. And I think that we just would want to discourage, obviously, we want to discourage that as much as possible.
Yeah.
But again, you're inheriting this pretty terrible access points here. And I think, we make do with what we've got.
Right. I can tell you that the large trucks are owned by the operators. It's the smaller vans that do have much more ability to manipulate their turns that are not. But the large trucks are owned by the operators themselves, and they can stipulate to their driver that they cannot take a route that takes them through residential, if that needs to be a condition that you apply to the development.
And then I noticed that the maps changed from what was in the package versus what you shown. Is that based on some offline agreement in between that?
Sorry. What?
Yeah. It's just trying to provide a better access for the semi, or was just to meet the 20% landscaping? That design
So
change.
which exhibits are you referring to?
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at attachment 2 in the package that was provided.
They adjusted the landscaping to meet our
Okay.
percentage
that-
requirements.
Attachment 2 is the original from the development agreement.
I see.
And then what you're seeing again from the proposal for the new attachment is what the revised site looks like for lots 1 and 2.
Okay, thanks.
Mina, do you mind if I say something? And it's not,
No,
I
please.
mean, our function here is really just to look at the site plan, and then later on the police and the traffic will be reviewed by all the appropriate other folks when they come back. But this really is a, sow's ear, if you don't mind me saying so. It's really not a good situation, and the thought of having big trucks coming in there. I mean, even now, if you try and all of us do, if you drive into either access the Quick Quack or to go around to the pizza place or that juice place, it's a mess, actually. It's a very unfortunate situation. And then we typically have these enormous cars that we drive. And so good luck to the poor semi-truck driver who's going to try go into the Quick Quack, or probably more directly, they'll try go in by the Taco Bell place or Taco Time. And so it's just going to cause a lot of headaches for the police, I'm afraid. But other than that, it's, everything else looks great.
So would there be any concern if we go back to the motion? Or is there an agreement actually among the commission if we go back to the motion to, and maybe Kelly, you can help me too if that's feasible, to add the comment or the recommendation to work with UDOT and find a solution? Is there something that we can add as part of the recommendation?
Yeah, we're more than happy to add number 9 and reach out to UDOT and let them know it's coming, and see if they have any, and have them look at the interaction of the intersection.
For any kind of large vehicle, there's no way that they would want to come in on Timpanogos Highway. You'd have a left turn. Unless you were at the light, then you would have to turn left, which you would need, and they would have to enter in by Blue Lemon. to be able to even access the place. So that's going to be the only logical. I'm not concerned about them going through residential for that reason, because there's no way to maneuver a semi-truck anywhere, in any way that, but they still will have a left turn with no light to enter into Blue Lemon, which is, they're going to hate. And when you have, because Mountainville Academy gets open and closes certain times during the day, that highway backs up with everyone dropping kids off at school on Mountainville. And so those are the kind of the concerns that I have for whoever's inheriting this problem, which I am sorry.
If I may, I will say some things that I think you're probably already aware of, but supermarkets time their deliveries of the larger trucks, obviously in the mornings when traffic is reduced, in order to avoid as much as they can. But the second thing is, you can imagine in larger urban areas, Salt Lake City, Southern California, where I'm from, you can't imagine some of the tight spots, and so they reduce the size of the truck that they will send with their groceries, so that they'll have a half-size semi oftentimes that can maneuver much more easily than the large trucks.
I think you're right, Audrey. I think the only viable option is Blue Lemon. I mean, that's the only place that they're going to come through, and so then it's a matter of, well, if that's going to work, because I think we can put recommendations to UDOT, but there's no place they can put an access point anywhere else on that main road. So if we're okay with them coming through there as their main access point, I think that's really the only option.
Well, if you folks don't, I beg to differ. I think that the trucks will probably just come in from Draper, and that they'll just sit there and wait, and then when there's a gap in the traffic, they'll probably turn in there. But anyway.
So what I gather is we just want to leave the recommendation as proposed by staff as of right now, and put a motion based on this recommendation. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm happy to. May I make a motion, or do you want to say?
That sounds good, because I don't think UDOT could do anything here unless they want to put a bridge or a roundabout or something, and that's not going to happen.
Well, they can potentially, though, force by putting a median if they fit to, if it's unsafe, close to the traffic light, so that way preventing anyone that perhaps is not as an expert driver to turn left. And they will look into those studies and potentially add funding, but I don't think that it's not feasible, but it is an option.
Okay, well then I'd move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and recommend approval of the site plan for the Highland Marketplace, Phase 2, and architectural review of the retail building, subject to the 9 stipulations recommended by staff.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll do a roll. Claude?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Seth?
Yes.
Okay. Tyler? Oh, yes. Audrey?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. The motion is approved. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, so moving into site plan number 6. And this is another architectural review for building heights for Lone Peak Village Office. Kelly? Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Chair and Board of Commissioners. Like Mino said, the applicant is proposing a site plan recommendation from the Planning Commission, and then an architectural approval and a height increase approval. So the Planning Commission has the responsibility to make those approvals or denials, whatever you conclude, and then the actual site plan is just a recommendation to council, just to clarify that fact. This is the vicinity map. It is this parcel just south of the existing Lone Peak Village building. Just to the east is the Macy's and all the little retail spots next to it. This is what I just stated, site plan recommendation, and then the approval or denial of architectural plan and height increase, which we'll go into further detail in a moment. This is the site plan that was approved back in 1997. What is in the red square is the proposed pad that is being requested for site plan approval. And this is the proposed site plan. As you can see, they were consistent in building location, amount of parking, etc. It is a overall lot that is 0.984 acres, and the proposed building has 882 square feet. It is 2 stories. And they have provided 60 parking stalls, which is exactly what is required by the development code, And access, there are 2 accesses from Town Center Boulevard, if you can see where my mouse is pointing. And then there is other access that will just be leading from the existing parking lots in the rest of Lone Peak Village. This is their landscaping plan. They've exceeded their percentage requirement for landscaping, and they are compliant with the landscaping section in the development code for the C1 zone. So that's the site plan where you have to make the recommendation, and then this is a separate motion that will be made. This is for the architectural review. The colors and materials are consistent with section 34324 and the development code, and they also have added 4-sided architecture. And the height request, the maximum height for buildings in the C1 zone is 30 feet, and they are requesting to increase it to 34 feet and 6 inches. And in the development code, it specifies that the Planning Commission can approve a height increase up to 36 feet. There are some things that are mentioned as things that we would like the Planning Commission to consider, and that is on a future slide in just a moment. These are the elevations, north, south, east, and west. And again, the height increase is up to 34 feet and 6 inches. The colors and materials are up to standards in the code. Okay, there's that. So these are the points that we ask the Planning Commission consider when making a decision on the height increase request. One is that the geographical position of the building and possible visual effects on existing structures on or off the site, so just buildings around that are surrounding, how it impacts them, and potential problems on neighboring sites caused by shadows, loss of solar access, etc. And then the influence on the general vicinity when it comes to traffic, congestion, streets, flow, that type of thing. And then it also notes that in no case will any increase in height be permitted if it increases the overall square footage of the building. This just shows that this is the existing office that's just north of the proposed pad, and that building height is 34 feet and 1.5 inches, so it also had that improved increase. And then this Toscana development that is just west of the proposed site plan is 35 feet tall. And because of these heights, we as staff have concluded that it does not have a significant impact on the surrounding developments. Another note, I contacted the developer just to inquire what the height increase was for. The top foot we know is to cover HVAC equipment. The appropriate notices were sent for the Planning Commission meeting, and we have not received any written correspondences. This is the recommendation and proposed motion by staff for the height increase in architecture review, or the plan. And so this is one that the Planning Commission has the responsibility to approve. This will not be going to the City Council for their review or approval. And then this is the second recommendation and proposed motion by staff that you recommend approval to the City Council of the site plan. And again, I'm here to answer any questions. We also have the architect and engineer that are on Zoom that are happy to answer any questions as well.
So after looking at the design of the proposed building, trying to get to it, do you have those pictures? Thank you. That will be right next to the Burt Brothers, correct?
That is correct.
And
just north.
Toscana. And I know that Macy's and the other areas tried to comply sort of within, we have sort of a look and a bit of a color scheme. We've got a new development coming in with residential, the dense residential that is completing right now. This is a lot different of a look in that area. What are your thoughts?
This, I also want to mention, they have, it is different from the rest of Lone Peak Village, but the office that's just north that was approved has a very similar look. They did just remodel the outside of it, and with colors, materials, they are matching it pretty consistently.
Is there anybody that wants to say anything?
So in terms of public
Yeah.
hearing, so this is not a public hearing, is that correct? This is just.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Audrey, my opinion is, I think it's decidedly unpleasant to have this dog's breakfast of architectural styles, and in a perfect world, I wish that we had some sort of consistency. But given what's presented, I think it's...
I get that. I just know that that's a dense area
Yeah.
and a narrow lane of traffic going back and forth. So I was just curious if that was of interest.
So this amendment will be for any C1 zone, correct?
No.
No.
Just
No,
for this in
is just a
particular?
site plan approval, yes, for this
Okay.
building specifically.
And then, for my understanding, they're asking for an additional foot because they want to cover HVAC. So usually, how do we measure height for a commercial building? Does there have to be a roof over? So it doesn't mean that the HVAC is going to be enclosed, and therefore they measure the footing from the street all the way to the enclosure? I'm just trying to visualize.
It would be ground up from to the maximum height of the building, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
So then, if 10 years from now, right, they come up with a more efficient HVAC unit that it's 20 inches taller, do they have to repropose? And I guess what I'm trying to understand, does any type of system that it's just for the sake of the functionality of the building, does it go against the total height of the commercial building, or we just measure, what does the code ask? Or would we just measure the actual physical height of the building without including the mechanical that might be located on the top of the building? Does it make sense?
Correctly. Well, part of your question, I do want to clarify that this height increase would just be approved for this building specifically. It's not something, like you mentioned, that would be for the entire C1 zone. And if they were wanting to increase it above the 34 feet 6 inches, they would have to come back to y'all to get that approval. This would just be to the proposed height, which is measured from the ground.
No, I was just curious if the code actually, when we measure height for commercial building, also take in consideration the utility.
The HVAC equipment?
Like if I put in a HVAC unit on top of the roof of my house, I don't think that it will increase, right, the overall height of my house, because I'm just using the height from the ground to
To your roof line.
to my roof line. So how does it change when we talk about commercial building?
So can I chime in here?
Just for
So it's
clarification,
top
from my
of the-
understanding.
Just the ultimate top of the structure, because they have the parapet, it would just go out to the parapet.
And they, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are kind of two principles here. The one part of our code says that we won't permit buildings, commercial buildings, to have the utilities visible. And that's why they build up the parapets.
Yeah, thank you. It was just for sake of my clarification of the design and what was getting asked. Appreciate it. Okay, do we have any more questions? Anybody would like to make a motion?
Sure, I'm on a roll here, I might as well continue.
Just remember, there's three parts to this motion, right? There's the site plan, there's the building height, and the architecture.
So, yeah, this one on the
Oh,
screen is the
two.
building height and architectural approval, and after you do that, I'll go to the next
Yeah.
screen.
So I move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and approve the architectural plans and building height increase to 34 feet and 6 inches for the Lone Peak Village Office 2, subject to the 3 stipulations recommended by staff.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry,
There were
it
two
is two.
Oh, I beg your
Two
pardon.
stipulations.
I thought I'd just throw in an extra one for fun. you know.
So do we, Steph, do we need to rectify then the motion, or the motion it's, okay. All right, so can I call for roll? Taylor?
Yes.
Claude?
Yes.
Audrey?
Yes.
Claude?
Yes.
And Seth? And I'm a yes as well. The motion is approved. And then we have the second motion. So could I have a motion, please?
I move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and recommended approval of the site plan for Lone Peak Village Office 2, subject to the 3 stipulations recommended by staff. Do I need to read those?
I think.
No, you're okay.
Could I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. So it's all approved. Thank you. Okay, so moving to, this is a public hearing for the minor subdivision, the Sunset Mountain Plant E. And you have something you'd like to show us, Connie? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair and Board of Commissioners. Like Nino said, this is the Sunset Mountain Plat E. It is a minor subdivision. It's just a one-lot subdivision. Here is just the parcel map showing the vicinity. This was a little bit of background, previously approved by council for the site plan of the Highland office and warehouse, and that was approved on January 14th, 2020. The property is not yet a recorded subdivision, which is why we are going through this minor subdivision process just to get it recorded with the county. And a minor subdivision, that process, we do preliminary and final plat approvals simultaneously, just to allow the developer to get it recorded as quickly as possible. This is the plat. The lot is 2.13 acres, and accesses are from Sunset Drive on this southwest side, and then we have a Normandy Way, which will extend this way north. The appropriate notices were sent out. We did hold a DRC meeting. It is not required anymore, but at the time it was on January 7th, and we had 2 residents attend. They were just curious as to if there were actually any changes to the site plan, essentially, which there are not. And then the appropriate planning commission notices were sent out, and we received 1 correspondence with a similar question, just asking if there were any changes being made. And as staff, we recommend that the planning commission hold a public hearing, accept the findings, and then recommend approval of the proposed plat with these 3 stipulations. And we also have the engineer that is present if you have any questions for him specifically.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to open the public hearing.
We have no one on Zoom, and we have no comments on YouTube either.
Okay, thank you. So, anybody here? Okay, so I'll move on then and close the public hearing and open for the floor. Okay, well, then, looks like there is no any question or comments, so then could I have a motion?
Sure, I move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and recommend approval, subject to these 3 stipulations.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is approved. Claude, I tend to look over to you. I don't know why every time there is a motion, but no pressure. I'll start look to my right. Okay, so number 8 on the agenda. This is preliminary plan for 10700. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Chair and members of the commission. This is 10700, previously known as Apple Creek. Most of us know it as Apple Creek, as it was the name of the PD district that was approved earlier this year. McKay Christensen is requesting approval of the preliminary plat. This is the overall vicinity map. There are a couple buildings that will be demolished in the future just below. Like I mentioned, the City Council approved this PD district with 42 residential units and 23,000 square feet of commercial space. And then, as mentioned in previous meetings, preliminary plat review is not a discretionary process, so the property owner is entitled to develop according to the standards that were previously approved in the Apple Creek PD district. This is the overall preliminary plat. It is 5.84 acres, and that's 4.33 acres of residential and then 1.4 acres of commercial. And like I said, there are those 42 residential lots, and then these 2 are for commercial. The setbacks meet what was approved in the PD district, and then you have access from Alpine Highway right here. They have received UDOT's approval to have that access, and they have a shared access to the south on 10700 North. And they also have an emergency access that's going to be on this north side with Ace Hardware, and they're just going to have some bollards there, removable bollards. This is the landscape plan. They will be continuing that parkway detail up to the north along their development. We have also requested that they add a berm to act as screening for the parking lot and the commercial buildings. And their green space includes this, they're gonna have a pavilion right here and this just green space right here, and then they have the tot lot that's over here, which are all things that were approved and discussed with the PD district approval. We're just bringing it up just as reminders. And the appropriate noticing was completed for the preliminary plat. Again, we held a DRC on January 6th. No residents attended, and the appropriate noticing was done for this planning commission meeting, and we have not received any written correspondence. And we as staff recommend that the planning commission hold a public hearing, accept the findings, and recommend approval of the proposed preliminary plat with the following stipulations. And the developer, McKay Christensen, is also present if you have any questions for him, and I'm also happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, I would like to open the public hearing.
We have no one on Zoom and no one on YouTube.
Okay, so move on and close the public hearing.
Okay, I have a couple questions. What was the conclusion between the ACE owners and the fire chief about the breakaway gate? I was going through all the notes from the meeting, reading through. It sounded like at the end, the ACE owners were fine with the through street for emergency access. Is that true?
That is, oh, yeah, you can,
Please, anyone?
yeah.
Yes.
Go up and state your name.
Hi, I'm McKay Christensen. I represent Apple Creek, or 10700, I guess it is now. So the conclusion that we came to here is, and Nathan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he was there in all the meetings, but was that we install bollards, removable bollards that I think that, and we have them labeled there. I'm not exactly sure how many we have placed in there, but the idea is that you could just come lift the bollard out, throw it over, and drive over it. I think that they also wanted a landscape, some like 4-foot little landscape buffer in through there. And the fire chief, at least in the city council meeting when we got all this approved, seemed to be okay with that.
Great, thank you.
I can stay up here.
Yeah, is there any more question?
And what was the resolution of the gate, the fencing? You wanted about a 3-foot and?
Fencing around the entire property?
I heard, well, there is already fencing in one location, right?
Yeah, so the fence plan for the property, and the dialogue was really regarding, so what we have where Kelly is kind of running the mouse, we've got, on that north end, we're leaving that concrete fence in place. And then we actually don't have any fencing along the western perimeter, the southern perimeter down at the very bottom, and then of course, on the eastern perimeter where the commercial is, we don't have any fencing there. The idea is that all of these units, they're alley loaded and they're facing out. We wanted to do the reverse of what Toscana has done, where you right in through here, where you drive by and you see a fence and the back of a unit. We wanted the pretty part of the units to be facing out to create a charming streetscape. And so that's the way that we've designed it. And then the fencing plan with the individual units, the majority of, also in order to maintain just the overall aesthetic of the area, the front yards, for the most part, are all going to be maintained by the HOA. And then the residents will have an enclosed side yard with a fence that you would see typically in between two units. You'll just see sort of a side yard. So I think it'll make a really pretty and attractive experience as you view it from the outside looking in.
And all resident addresses will be via the front door?
Yes. So you mean getting into the units?
Yeah, I'm so confused by Toscana.
No.
I'm so baffled going.
Yeah.
Trying to find in there.
So basically the residential units, you can't really, maybe, Kelly, would you mind going to the landscape plan?
Yes.
Thank you. You can kind of tell here, although it's a little bit hard. Maybe you get a better image on your computers, but everything is alley loaded, but we also have, in between every single unit, you've got a stall. And so basically there are 3 stalls per resident. And if you use that as a visitor stall, they could park in that stall, open up the gate, and either go through a side entry unit, or we've got these paseos that Kelly's got her mouse on, where and all of our sidewalks connect, so you can park, walk through a paseo, and get to the front of the units, if that makes sense.
And the parking will be maintained by the HOA?
That's right.
Right. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I had one little point of clarification that Nathan, on that point 4, on the item number 4, where it says the developer must post signage adjacent to the 10 stalls in the northwest commercial parking lot, indicating that they are designated visitor parking stalls for the brownstone units. So my understanding when we got this approved through City Council is that we are required to build, so I just went back to what got approved. It says the 10 visitor parking stalls shall be installed near the Brownstone district from the commercial district as a part of the improvements for the Brownstone district. What I recollect was that we still get credit in the commercial that they're dual-use stalls, right? Like, they operate as visitor stalls for like overnight guests. Those 10 stalls do for overnight guests that come and stay, but during the daytime, they could count as the allocation towards the commercial. But the city council said, well, that's fine, this is my recollection, that's fine as long as those 10 stalls are first built. Like, if you build those duplexes, the brownstones, before you build any of the commercial, we're requiring that you at least have those visitor stalls built then, with the idea being, you know, once we build the commercial, we're going to have 110 stalls that are going to be completely vacant after 5, 6 p.m., and you'll have a gajillion stalls for visitors overnight. But the concern was, oh, those might not be built in advance of those brownstones, and let's make sure that you build those 10 when you do build the brownstones. So that was my recollection. So point 4 kind of makes it sound like we're carving that out of the commercial, and those get allocated towards the residential, whereas they're still, my distinction is that they're shared still. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I've slept since then, so I don't remember. I'd have to dive into it to try to remember that. So I can't answer that right away.
And yeah, and maybe now is not the...
We can answer before
when
council.
we get into that. So anyway, just wanted to make that point. But otherwise, yeah, we're excited about the project. We're looking forward to it. So.
Thank you. I mean, ultimately, that road is going to be public. We're going through the subdivision. Is that right?
You mean open to the public?
No, the actual road would not be maintained by the HOA, but will be maintained by the city, correct?
That's a good question.
In the PD district, they're
The road itself, yes, will probably be maintained by the public, yeah.
Thanks for
thank you.
being patient, okay?
Yeah,
You've been great to work with.
Okay, I'm going to look to the right and ask if there is a motion.
I move, just to confuse you, I move that the Planning Commission accept the findings and recommend approval of the 10-700 preliminary plat, subject to the 4 stipulations recommended by staff, but with the edit that stipulation number 4, I presume, would just need some offline resolution. Is that appropriate way to describe it, Nathan?
Just be revised as indicated in the council stipulations.
Okay, to be revised. Do you need me to babble on, or have you got that? Okay, thank you.
Could I have a second, please? Thanks, Ed. Okay, so there.
Yes.
Claude?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
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 And I'm a yes as well. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, so this is action number 9. So as obviously we all have noticed, Chris is no longer our chair, and so action number 9, it's open for the Planning Commission to elect the new chair and vice chairman. So first I would like to ask if there is any commissioner that are interested in either position.
I think Mino did a great job.
I agree.
So with that said, I actually reached out to Jerry as we were before the meeting, and I had a chance at least to talk with one of you about your thoughts about perhaps proposing Jerry as a chairman. He texts back, he says he's open to the idea, and he doesn't have to be physically present here, but I would like to run it with the
Well, I would nominate him.
I
To be the
too would
chair.
support Jerry. Mino, I think you've done a nice job too, if you're interested in vice chair.
Yeah, on condition that we don't have too much waffling, and I'm not being rude or disrespectful, but just to kind of,
Keep the ball rolling.
yeah, let's just keep meetings crisp and to the point and all that.
Thanks for the feedback.
I'm not talking about you, by the way.
Oh, no. I totally appreciate it.
So the way this works is you can either do it by ballot, right? You can say, but the first part is somebody will say, I nominate Audrey to be chair, and somebody will second, so that's one person. And then you go, any other nominations? And you pick Joanne or Kelly.
Merry Christmas.
That was fun, by the way. I had fun with Kelly today, by the way, with that. Anyways,
Hilarious.
and then once the nominations are closed, assuming if there is more than one, we can either do a silent, well, Seth, you still on, I assume? We can either do a silent vote. Seth can text me or somebody and say, this is who I vote for. Or you can do a verbal vote, and then you do repeat that process for the vice chair. Okay?
So let's talk about the vote. Can we do an open then? Any concern with that? Okay, then,
Is there anyone that wanted to? This is what I'd love to know. Is there,
yeah. I'll be open to the idea of appoint me for vice chair, definitely, probably. No, for chairman, for sure. Anybody else?
Claude
You have
is
my
dying.
nomination?
Sure. Do you mind to?
Well, I would nominate Jerry Abbott to be chair.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so I have to call a roll for this one, is that correct? Or can
Any
we
other-
just do all in favor?
Well, just
Right,
say
so
any
I
other
would say-
nominations.
So do we have one nomination for Jerry and a second. Any other nominations for chair? No? Okay, so you don't need to vote. Everybody okay with that?
yes.
Call for a
Yes.
vote. All right.
Okay, yes.
Nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Mina.
Okay. Do we have seconds? Okay, Seth, that was you, yes? Yes. Okay, any other nominations for vice? Okay, anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
That's it.
okay, thanks, everyone. Then I'm guessing staff will communicate it with Jerry?
Yep,
Okay,
we will
perfect.
do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move to number 11. It looks like we'll have to approve
Minutes.
meeting from December 8th, 2020. Anybody had a chance to read any comments about those meetings? Any revisions? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the meetings from 8/20, December 8th, 2020?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye. Okay. And so staff, do you have any communication for us?
Do we have anything specifically? We're starting our first, so next meeting, we have a general plan amendment regarding trails. Real simple, but we're going to talk about, but before we do it, we'll talk about general plan amendments, how they work. Kelly will be an expert by that time, so look forward to her speech. And we'll go from there. Ty, do you want to introduce yourself? You just got appointed today.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler Standiford. So I'm like a long-term Highland resident. I was born here in 1984 and have lived here my entire life except for 3 years when I was getting my PhD at the University of Tennessee. So I'm a professor at Utah Valley University, and I teach biomechanics there. And now I've moved to I grew up in Pheasant Hollow, which is just north of the Fox Hollow Golf Course. Now I've moved to the east side of Highland, over on the east side of Alpine Country Club. So it's been kind of fun to be in the crosshairs of the east-west corridor debates. Having lived on the west side and on the east side as well. So, and one interesting note is I've worked at Alpine Country Club since 1999. So in the summertime, I guess I summer light as a grass mower there, so I can play free golf. And anyway, married, I've got 4 kids, and my wife's pregnant with our 5th.
Oh,
So,
congratulations.
yeah, just excited. Again, seeing a lot of changes in Highland. When we moved here, we were, I mean, in 1984, it was not what it is now. So it's fun to see the changes and feel like maybe you can be a part of some good positive things moving forward. So.
All right, so next meeting for Planning Commission is February 23rd. And I just would like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good night.